Zionists are calling for Megyn Kelly's head after she sat down. She dared to sit down with an interview with Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's been extremely critical of the United States' support of Israel. Throughout this interview, Megyn Kelly was very critical of the Palestinians. In fact, downright cruel at some points, wrong in many of them. But the fact that she sat down with Marjorie Taylor Greene, this has so many Zionists just completely pissed off. They're calling for her head. They're saying, just, we don't need her anymore. You've got Mark Levin just casting her away. You've got all these people that are strong Israel supporters thinking they don't need Megyn Kelly anymore. They've lost her and they don't care. They are far from losing Megyn Kelly, and I'll show you exactly why. But what they're mostly upset about, even though she was extremely critical of the Palestinians, claiming that they're not actually starving to death, that Israel's not actually committing a genocide, she's got that thinking in her mind. What they're the most upset about, actually, is that her and Marjorie Taylor Greene got into a discussion about AIPAC. Now, a lot of Americans, even those who support Israel, are starting to wonder, wait a minute, what is it about this foreign country that has a lot of influence in our government? What's up with that? This is what her and Marjorie Taylor Greene said that's now made the lynch mob come after Megyn Kelly.
Is also in there is AIPAC.
Yes.
We should talk about that because it's the Israeli, pro-Israeli American group.
Yes. And
they are also very good about recruiting politicians early on in their careers. Mm-hmm. And they, like those other groups you mentioned, are deep-pocketed and would love to buy your vote. Mm-hmm. And now they're becoming more controversial because people like you are sort of saying, you don't own me. Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of politicians to my left and my right, and literally to your left and right, because the Democrats and Republicans who have been purchased, who now may not have the freedom to speak as openly about their thoughts on this. And I think this audience knows, and I know where you stand too on Israel and all that, but I've been very pro-Israel, and I've been very defensive of their right to defend themselves in this nightmare.
Of course.
And I've been very defensive of American Jews on campuses who are just being harassed, and it's ridiculous.
Of course.
But I have absolutely no skin whatsoever in defending any lobbyist group, including AIPAC.
Right.
So I would love to know what they do to get the loyalty of politicians, because I will say I have had multiple reach outs to me, both from friends and from connected people in D.C., begging me to go to Israel with them. Mm-hmm. And I have said no every time. I'm just too busy. I have 3 kids. I have a full-time job. I'm not doing it. But lately, it seems like it's coming to be even more, because I feel like there's a contingent of people who are worried that they're losing me. Uh-huh. And I've said that you're not losing. I'm not on Hamas's side.
No, God, no. Nobody's on Hamas's side.
But it's been a while now that this has been going on.
Right.
And we're getting more involved with the Iranian bombing and so on.
Sure.
And my own feelings are, I'm looking at Israel in a different way right now than I was on 10/8, that's for sure, of 23.
Right.
And I can feel the pressure being slightly ratcheted up, like you're not allowed to. You're not allowed to. Mm-hmm. And I can see people like you, like Tucker, who I know Tucker. I've known him for years. And I've seen you in your early career. I know you have nothing against Israel.
Oh, gosh, no.
Never mind Jews. Yeah. That's all a lie. But,
right.
And I see the beatdowns coming. Like, you're not allowed. Like, you have to stay right on this lily pad.
Yes.
And you cannot jump to another neighboring lily pad, because it could take you all the way down the river away.
So Sam Altman just confirmed what many of us feared. ChatGPT can now remember everything you've ever typed. Your dreams, your business ideas, even your most personal questions. And they say it's to get to know you. But with the former NSA director on their board, yeah, you do the math. We've seen this game before. Alexa listens, Meta follows you across the internet. Why would AI be any different? And now they're floating the idea of requiring a government ID to use it. Now that's why I've switched to Venice AI, a privacy-first AI platform that doesn't spy on you. No logins, no data hoarding, and no creepy tracking. Your chats stay on your browser encrypted. They don't spy on you or censor the AI. Messages are encrypted, and your conversation history is stored only in your browser. AI can be extremely valuable, but we shouldn't need to give up our privacy to use it. And with the Venice Pro plan, you can upload PDFs, disable safe mode, and generate powerful images and text using top open source models right from your browser. Again, no middleman, no surveillance. Here's an example of me asking the same question to Venice AI and to ChatGPT. So here's ChatGPT. Chat gives me the generic government-approved answer. However, Venice AI gives me a much better, more robust, honest answer. So if you want to use AI without fear of handing over your most intimate thoughts to, a big corporation or to the government, you can also get 20% off a pro plan using my link, venice.ai/Kim, and use code Kim. Again, that is venice.ai/Kim, code Kim. Well, the beatdown has come for Megyn Kelly after this interview. So she's saying she sees the beatdown on Marjorie Taylor Greene and Tucker Carlson. Well, after this, she's getting the beatdown. People are so completely outraged over Megyn Kelly. Here's a very long tweet, for example. This was retweeted many times. Many prominent pro-Israel voices retweeted this and was like, let Megyn Kelly go, just whatever. We don't want anything to do with her. This is from Yehuda Teitelbaum saying Megyn Kelly has a choice right now. She can either keep her credibility or she could follow the path of right-wing grifters who've made it their mission to bash Israel without logic or facts. Her interview with Marjorie Taylor Greene was full of blatantly false claims that collapse under the slightest scrutiny. I won't be sharing it, but here are some of the points they mentioned. He goes on to say AIPAC controls Congress, saying this is an old conspiracy theory, he says. Repackaged as fact, AIPAC is an American membership organization. It isn't registered under FARA because it isn't a foreign agent. It is made up of U.S. citizens who care about Israel. Their lobbying budget in 2024 was around $50 million. For comparison, Big Pharma spent over $350 million. Tech and telecom spent hundreds of millions. If AIPAC controls Congress with $50 million, what does that mean about the industry spending 10 times that amount? Yeah. And I've seen this over and over. In fact, other people have asked this exact question, like, why would you be questioning AIPAC? Why don't you question all these others? Here's open source intel saying, I have a question for Marjorie Taylor Greene. What's with your obsession with AIPAC? Many countries have lobbying groups not under FARA, but you never address these foreign PACs. Qatar, the Qatar American Institute, Turkey, Turkish Coalition of America, Saudi Arabia, Armenia, Cuba, right? These all have these groups. And why don't you ever mention them? I'll tell you why they're never mentioned. Because they actually don't spend nearly as much money on our politicians as AIPAC and AIPAC-like groups. AIPAC is kind of like Kleenex. It's a term that we use. AIPAC is a big lobbying group, but there are many dozens more of these pro-Israel groups. And all of that money combined, we kind of label as AIPAC. And then there's the individuals like Miriam Adelson, who actually any of her donations get classified as casino hotel donations or even pharmaceutical and drug donations. But in reality, we all know that her donations are pro-Israel donations, and they're in the hundreds of millions. The difference between these PACs and AIPAC is that, yes, these PACs spend more money on lobbying than AIPAC. Technically, the AIPAC spends less, about $5 million annually on lobbying. These other groups spend maybe $7 million or $8 million. It's all roughly around the same amount of money. But the big difference is what AIPAC is able to do that these other groups are not, is that AIPAC actually donates directly to our politicians' campaigns. And we call that lobbying. It's just another term for it. It's not categorized as lobbying. It's actually political contributions. But nonetheless, we use the umbrella term lobbying just like we use the umbrella term AIPAC. And the reality is, AIPAC, the Zionist lobby, donates more money and uses more money on lobbying and uses more money on electoral campaigns by a massive amount than any of these other groups from other foreign countries. And the other thing is, too, when you're talking about telecom or big pharma, sure, we criticize all of these big corporate interests in our politics, but at least they're American corporate interests. They're often American companies employing Americans based in America. But we're talking about a group that is just solely focused on the health and well-being of a foreign country, and that's it. And they want Americans to support and finance and float that country and support and finance and float their genocide. And that's what Americans are mad about. So it's disingenuous for all of them to say, what is Marjorie Taylor Greene point? Why is she pointing out AIPAC? What's this obsession with AIPAC? AIPAC doesn't hardly lobby at all. Right, they don't need to. They spend money on all of our politicians. AIPAC is just, Qatar is the big one. Oh, really? Right. When was the last time I saw every politician in America, left and right, go to Qatar and kiss a wall and wear all the garb? And, I don't see the women putting on the burqas and walking, we're just not seeing this. So stop treating us like we're stupid. Of course, what we're seeing is a complete infiltration of our government by a foreign interest group, and they should have to register. Now, I'm going to show you this segment. This is longer and disgusting. It just goes to show that Megyn Kelly is absolutely not on the side of Palestine. She has still lost her mind on this. She is still super pro-Israel. Nonetheless, all of these people are still going after her. Let me just show you a few more of people going after her. This is Hen Maziz saying, I've been told countless times by fellow Jews to abandon the left because they hate Jews and to embrace the right because they love us. I've never denied anti-Semitism on the left. I've called it out, but I've also warned that the right is no safer for Jews. Still, I was urged to follow Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly. These were supposed to be our defenders. The truth we all must admit is simple. Anti-Semitism isn't left or right. It thrives anywhere it's allowed. Unless we face that, it will devour us from every side. So basically saying that all of these people here are just a bunch of anti-Semites, because anti-Semitism is just a disease that's in the Gentiles, and just every so often that disease just crops up, and we got to do something about it. Mike Newman says, unfollow all the woke right Nazis on X. Tucker, Megyn, Candace, Marjorie, Thomas, Massey, Piers, screw them all. Thank you. Okay. So Megyn Kelly, they're going after her, saying she's one of the bad guys now. But listen to her.
I believe that children are starving and hurting in Gaza, no question. Mm-hmm. But I blame Hamas. I do see what's happening with the Israeli aid and the food trucks, and they get co-opted by Hamas, by certain Palestinians. And that's why, and the more suffering children they can get on a camera over there, the better in their minds. These are not honest brokers. They steal from their own people. They're happy to watch their children starve to death as long as they can put the emaciated baby on camera. It's disgusting. They don't have the same value toward human life that we do, and yes, that Israel has. I'm not saying Israel's perfect. They haven't executed this whole thing perfectly, not by a long shot, but when I see what's happening with the starving children, I blame Hamas.
Well, they
Am
started
I wrong?
it. They started it, so October 7th was unbelievably horrific. It's unspeakable what Hamas did. I totally blame Hamas. The war wouldn't even be happening if Hamas hasn't done all the things that they've done, right? Firing rockets into Israel, kidnapping and murdering all these people, suicide bombers over the years. Absolutely. They started this and it's horrible. I think it's Israel's, they can pinpoint areas, but they're just mass bombing everywhere, and the videos coming out of there are terrible. I'll also say this, Megyn, that conflict has been going on I'm 51 years old. It's been going on way beyond before I was born or any of us were born. I can't even tell you I qualify to solve it. I think God is the only person that
You don't
can
think
solve
Mara Gaza is the solution?
No. No, not at all.
My problem is, when you use the word genocide, I don't believe that. But I also don't have any meaningful video or picture source that I trust.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that no one does, right? Although I haven't seen the number of dead children, injured children, starving children coming out of the Ukraine-Russian conflict like we've seen come out of the Israel-Gaza conflict.
Isn't that because of the Palestinians and their amazing propaganda abilities? I think that's the reason, because the Palestinians put all this on camera and release it. And they make sure that we see this, which is another reason to be suspicious of it. I don't know what I'm being fed or for what purpose.
Yeah.
The Ukrainians aren't doing that, and the Russians aren't doing that.
But why not, though? Why isn't Ukraine and Russia
they're not good at propaganda.
doing that to each other?
See, this is
I don't know. I think Zelensky's pretty good at propaganda.
Maybe, but I guess he doesn't have the lifelong commitment to it that the Palestinians. Since I've been in news, the Palestinians have been doing this.
Yeah.
Megyn Kelly, shut up. Oh my gosh. Why aren't the Russians and the Ukrainians doing it? Why aren't they? Well, you know what? Because they're not killing kids. That's why, actually, because they're not killing massive numbers of civilians. Certainly some civilians have died in the Russian-Ukraine war, but not to this scale, not to this level. We're not seeing starving children, Megyn, because they're not actually starving in Ukraine or Russia, but they are starving in Gaza. So how hard is this for you to comprehend? That maybe this one is different. It's not that you're just being propagandized and flooded with images. It's that the images don't exist in these other wars, and that they do exist in this war. And what is your excuse for the fact they exist? Are you actually going to claim that they're AI? Is that what you're going to say, that these children that are starving and these dead babies and these people that are being killed, that all the buildings being destroyed in Gaza, that this is AI? Is that what you think it is? Or do you really just think that it's propaganda. It gets worse. What she says is actually
And they're
worse.
very good manipulators of media, of cameras.
You've been in the news business much longer than me.
I've been burned enough times by them. Like I've gone with their numbers over the years enough times. I've been like, oh my God, this is another fucking lie. All they do is make up lies and numbers.
Okay.
Then you run with it. And if you're smart, you pay attention, you get burned. Then you realize, I do not trust the Hamas Ministry of Health.
Okay, Megyn Kelly, who was working on Fox News. So she's sitting there saying, I've trusted them many times. When did you ever trust them working on Fox News? None of us believe that. You never once believed their numbers. You never once were burned. You were told from the beginning, every day you worked at Fox News, that their numbers were not to be trusted. That's what you were told, and that is what you've repeated. You show me an instance where you were actually believing Hamas, believing the Palestinians, having any sympathy for them at all. You show me that. Show me that clip. And then we'll go from there.
So that's kind of how I've come to it. But I also feel like it's also undeniable that at this point, Israel has lost, or most charitably is losing, the propaganda war. Mm-hmm. And I know why. They're not fighting it as well as Hamas. They never have.
Gosh. Megan, because
And I
there
think
aren't
people gave them a huge...
Because there aren't dead children in Israel. They're not being starved. They're not being bombed. Their schools aren't being bombed. Their hospitals aren't being bombed. What do you mean? Well, they're not as good at the narrative. Right, because they're not suffering the same way that the Palestinians are. That's why.
Benefit of the doubt in the beginning of this war, it was like we were still getting bombarded by images and false facts by the Palestinians. But it was like, you know what? We're impenetrably on Israel's side. We saw what you did on 10/7. But it's been 2 years now.
Yeah.
And I know Israel says, well, we still have 20 hostages left, or whatever the exact
20
number
that are
is.
alive. 50, but I think they think 20 or so
that are alive.
Yeah.
But my question is, how long, and with all due respect to the hostages, how long can we justify nonstop war based on the hostages? And it's not that I have no empathy for the hostages. It's just at some point, the war must stop, or at least we have to stop funding it.
Well, not only that, but how they've been able to get the hostages back has been through ending the war. That is how they've been able to get them back. And if Israel wanted all of them back, all they would have to do is end the war, stop the bombardment, allow the Gazans to live in peace, and stop the blockades and stop all of the apartheid system, the genocidal system that they've had all of this time. If they could just do that, they could have their hostages back. That's how they've been able to gain all of their hostages back. They haven't gained them back through war. So, but nonetheless, Megyn starts to question things like, how much longer can we do this war? What about AIPAC? And that caused all of the Zionists to just freaking lose their minds. It's like you can't even have an ounce of criticism. You just heard Megyn Kelly be fiercely pro-Israel, denying genocide, denying starvation, denying the images that she's seeing on her cell phone. She's denying this all at the behest of Israel. My personal thinking is that somebody like Megyn Kelly probably has a lot of very pro-Israel friends, whether they be Jewish themselves or they be Christian Zionists, whoever they are. Her social circle is probably really infiltrated with people that she would be alienated if she took a different stance. And she doesn't want to lose her friends. She doesn't want to lose her invites to the parties. She doesn't want to lose, maybe her kids are going to a certain private school and she doesn't want her kids to be alienated at that private school because all their best friends are Jewish kids or whatever it might be that she might be her reasoning for turning a blind eye and remaining ignorant. Typically, it's for personal reasons. That's what we found, whether it be, bribery and blackmail. I don't think it's any of that for Megyn. I think for a lot of these people, politicians, it certainly is bribery, blackmail, brainwashing. But I also think there's an aspect of social circles for a lot of these elites. They don't want to piss off their friends, their neighbors. And so they would rather just, okay, I'm on your side. I'm on your side. And they take that stance. That's kind of the feeling I get as to why Megyn Kelly takes the stance that she does, because how could you call yourself a journalist and see all of the imagery or even people like myself who've been over there and seen it with our own eyes? It's undeniable that Israel has been committing crimes against these Palestinian people for decades and decades and decades. But nonetheless, the point of this is, here's Megyn Kelly being fiercely pro-Israel and the slightest little criticism and suddenly off with her head. And that has been, they're alienating, like even Piers Morgan, alienating Candace Owens. Well, Candace has been Candace has actually been pretty full on, very much against. But Tucker's been on the fence. Megyn certainly has been. Piers has been too. And then doing a little bit of criticism. And the minute they criticize, even an ounce, it is off with their heads. They're not with us. And, this is just definitely not the way to win friends and influence people. I wish it took a little bit more than them being attacked by the pro-Israel group for them to actually say, okay, I've now had it with you and I'm telling the truth and this is what I'm actually saying. I wish it took more than the attacks, but it's certainly not helping the pro-Israel Zionist side, maintain any sort of powerful and influential friends, that's for sure. Thank you for watching this clip from the full Kim Iversen Show, which you can catch Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern at KimIversonShow.com. It is free for you to watch. Again, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, KimIversonShow.com. See you there.